Hello, everyone. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. It's that time again. Time to do another movie review. This is another movie that I really wanted to talk about, and this is a movie I would give anything if this would get like a really give a good Blu-ray release. It's a 1992 TV miniseries, and pretty much I talked. I reviewed a movie about Jeffrey Dahmer. I reviewed a movie about Charles Manson. Eileen Warnos. Let's see here. Ted Bundy. So I figure it's about time I need to do a movie about John Wayne Gacy. So we're going to talk about To Catch a Killer, the 1992 TV miniseries starring Brian Dennehy as John Wayne Gacy and Michael Riley as Detective Joseph Kozenzak. Meg Foster is in this movie. Margot Kidder has a brief scene, brief but memorable. And this movie is just this is a brilliant TV miniseries. I can't recommend it enough. It's directed by Eric Till. It's it's just it's fantastic. It's so well done. This is if you're a true crime fanatic, this is one of the ones you really want to watch because it's just so brilliant. It's so great. Of course, the story is about John Wayne Gacy, played by Brian Dennehy, who I mean, look at Brian Dennehy. Doesn't he look absolutely terrifying in that in that picture there is John Wayne Gacy. I mean, oh my god, it scares the hell out of you. And but anyway, the stories of John Wayne Gacy, who between 1972 and 1978, he murdered at least 33 young men that they know of, and for a long time, I think people were really baffled that he got away with it. But you know, and it was weird, because a lot of the times, well, some of the victims were teenage boys that worked for his construction service. He had a construction company called PDM, painting, decorating, and maintenance. And some of the boys that disappeared were boys that worked for him. But the problem was, every time the parents would go to the cops would say the same thing. Go, well, they got to be missing for so many hours before we can do anything about it, or they would just label them a runaway and they wouldn't do anything anyway. And yeah, it was horrible, and this went on for years. Plus, to many of the young men that Gacy had murdered ended up were pretty much known as like male prostitutes and things like that. So anyway, here's a picture of the real John Gacy, and here he is when he's dressed up as a clown because John Wayne Gacy. If you're watching all this, I'm sure you already know about John Wayne Gacy. He was known as this upstanding member of his community. He dressed up as a clown called Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown, and he would entertain kids at birthday parties and hospitals and things like that. He did charity events, and he did block parties for his neighborhood and things. And he was just considered this all around wonderful guy. Nobody ever thought anything bad of him. Nobody ever thought there was any reason to doubt that, no reason to believe he would ever have anything to do with it. But yeah, it turned out that he had a secret life, and that it turned out he was, well, he always described himself as bisexual, but it seemed like he really had this desire to have sex with young men. And I think back in the 1970s, well, I don't think I know. I mean, back in the 1970s, like to be, a homosexual was definitely not tolerated. I mean, it's barely tolerated even today. But I mean, back then it just wasn't tolerated. So, um, but him being the upstanding member of his, community and everything as he was, he couldn't, really like let himself be what he was or who he was. And, as a result of it, at least 33 young men ended up being murdered by him. And, there's many conflicting stories about what happened. And that was the thing. I mean, the thing that I thought was interesting was that John Wayne Gacy, when he was captured, at first, he sat there and told all these different stories. It's like he said that that they tried to blackmail him, that they died by their own hands, that they were human garbage that he was just getting rid of, and things like that. And yeah, it was amazing. Just hard to believe that he was doing all these things. But anyway, though, going back to the movie is telling that story, and um, you know, at the beginning of the movie, you have you're in a pharmacy and you have this young man named Chris Gant, who in real life, the young man's name was Robert Peace, and he was working part time in this pharmacy. He was, young guy, still in school, getting ready to go to college, and he was working part time in this pharmacy so he could earn money. And but the pharmacist, he's talking to Gacy, played by Brian Denny, and Denny, he's asking him, like, what's the problem? He's like, well, I wish I could give him a raise, but it's like he's a hard worker and stuff, but I just can't afford to do it right now. And it's like, how much you pay him? Well, part timers $2.50 an hour. And he's like, wow, you get away with murder. I start my people off at $5 an hour, which just goes to show you. I mean, this tells you how long ago it took place. I mean, um, just $2.50 an hour. I mean, nowadays, there's no way you could ever survive on something like that. But back then they managed to. Of course, cost of living was a little bit cheaper then, but so anyway, so Chris's mom comes to pick him up, and he's asking her to wait because he wants to talk to a contractor about a job. And then he goes, this girl that works with him, he lets her borrow his coat because she's cold, and because everybody keeps coming in and out of the pharmacy, so cold air keeps getting in. She's getting cold, so he gives her his coat to wear. So when he gets ready to go outside, she gives him his coat back, and so he goes out and he's never seen again. So the girl working in the pharmacy, the boss, the mother, everybody, they're trying to find him. They can't find him anywhere. Um, and pretty much they already know that, the contractor that he went to talk to had to be John Wayne Gacy. And so they're calling him and stuff. And it's, it has to be easily one of the most chilling shots, establishing shots I've ever seen in a movie, because you see the front of Gacy's house and all the lights are off, and you hear the you hear his phone ringing, and you hear the answering machine, and you hear him say, this is John Wayne Gacy, please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And the pharmacist is on there, yeah, please, John, if you get this message, please call me back as soon as possible, and things like that. And but what makes this shot so chilling is the fact that Gacy's car is parked in the driveway. So we know that he's in there. We know something really nefarious and evil going on. And then we cut to our detective, Joe Kozenzak. Now, we're introduced to Detective Joe Kozenzak, played by Michael Riley here. And, he goes in, basically, he's starting off his day. He's going into he's a detective. He's going into the station, and, they find out that they filed this missing person report on Chris, and he immediately suspects something is wrong. He's all like, wait a minute, nothing about this boy adds up. There's no reason for him to be a runaway. Just kind of like whatever is going on here, it just doesn't seem right. So he goes out and he's talking to the family, and it's the mother, the father, and there's a daughter, and the daughter is very kind of belligerent and just really ticked off. And so he asks the daughter what's wrong, and so she says, that's the thing, she's all like, they told us we had to wait all this time, to file a missing persons report. And he's like, I understand that. And, and she's all like, he was supposed to come home. We were going to celebrate my mother's birthday and everything else. And so Kozenzak decides, you know what, we're not going to sit on this. He's like, he gets onto his detectives, and he's all like, you know what? He's like, I want you to put everything you got on hold. We're going to look for this kid until he's found, one way or another. And they're all like, Joe, don't you want to give it just a little bit of time? And he's like, no, I don't. Let's get going and let's find this guy, or, let's find this kid. So, they're starting to look into it, and in the beginning, everybody feels that Kozenzak is being completely unreasonable, and that, he's off his rocker and stuff. And he's wanting to, he's basically wanting to hurry up and get to Gacy. So it's like him and a couple of his detectives go with him that night. And, they're knocking on the door, and they're like, wait a minute, the TV's on in there. Somebody's in there, and, they can see somebody in the window. And so they go and they see Gacy sitting down in his living room watching TV. So Kozenzak knocks on the door, and Gacy lets him in, and, he's like, no, not you guys, just him and stuff. And so, Kozenzak is asking Gacy, can I check your house? And he's like, you got a search warrant? No, get the hell out of here, all this stuff. And so he's just so yeah, he's wanting to ask him, come down, give us a statement. He's like, yeah, I will when I can, and all this other kind of stuff. And Gacy is, basically as he was in in real life. He was annoyed. He didn't really want to be bothered with the kid. He didn't care one way or another. So, but so anyway, so he finally goes and gives him the you know, and he goes to give his statement. And Kozenzak, meanwhile, is he's battling with I believe she's the DA, played by Meg Foster. He's trying to get he wants to get a search warrant, because he's like, I believe the kid's in there and I want to get him out, before anything worse happens to him. But unbeknownst to Kozenzak, before Gacy goes to give him his statement, he has Gant's body, up in his attic, and he killed him, and so he's taking him off to dump the body because, as we all know, in the real life story, that John Wayne Gacy, he murdered at least 33 young men, and he buried most of them in the crawl space under his house. I believe one under his garage in his backyard. Um, I think one under a patio, I believe. And then, it just got to where he had no more room to stash bodies, so he started taking them in his car and dumping them in the Des Plaines River. So Gacy, he goes to Gacy to give us the keys to your house, and I was like, wow, you really got it in for me, don't you? And so they go and they check his house, and they find all kinds of stuff, but they don't find anything on Chris Gant, not yet. But they turn. So Kozenzak decides, I want to see if I can get this guy to crack. So what I want to do is I want to put him under 24-hour constant surveillance. And so he works with this guy, Mike Paxton, who the two of them apparently have this kind of strained friendship. And he's all like, I want you to stay on this guy. He's like, I want to see if we can get him to break, and maybe he can reveal something. So they start following Gacy around, and one minute Gacy's telling him, get the hell out of here, stop bothering me. Then the next minute he's telling everybody these are my bodyguards. They're here to watch over me because I'm a big deal, and all this kind of stuff. And so and it's a really really suspenseful movie, and you can see that Gacy is starting to crack. At one point, this movie easily has like one of the most suspenseful scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Anyway, here's the scene where Brian Dennehy is dressed up as a clown. But anyway, yeah, this movie has one of the most suspenseful scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and it gives me the chills when I watch it. At one point, Gacy invites a young man to his house, one of his workers, and he invites him in, and they're smoking a joint. And even though Gacy knows he's being watched, sorry, my throat's dry. So he's about to basically kind of do the same thing with this kid that he did with all the other kids. And he puts he's like, here, take these handcuffs, put them on me, I want to show you a magic trick. So he puts the handcuffs on him, and so he's all like, oh man, oh wow, you put these on real tight. And he's like, wow, okay, and so he pulls them out from behind his back and stuff. He's like, here, hold these for a second. And the guy's like, wow, that's neat, how do you do that? And he's like, well, there's just a little lever on there, you push the lever, they pop right off. So the guy puts them on. He's like, no, you got to do it behind your back. That way people can't see what you're doing. So he does it. And he's reluctant, but he does agree to do it. And so, he's trying. He's like, I can't get him off. He's like, please, what's going on here? It's like, what's the secret? And it's like, and Denny, he's all like, what's the secret? It's like, the secret is, he pulls a key out of his pocket, and he's like, secret, I have a key, you stupid little bastard. And it's like, Denny, this is probably the most frightening I've ever seen him in any movie, pretty much. He's absolutely terrifying in this moment. And the guy, he's like, he's scared to death. And he's like, please, engage. He's just mocking. He's like, yeah, please, come on, pretty boy, say please one more time. And everything else. And oh my God, it's absolutely chilling the way that scene was done. And it still gives me shivers to this day, but it's one of the best acted scenes I've seen in a movie in a long time. But he does eventually snap out of it, and he realizes he can't keep doing this because he's being watched. As a matter of fact, what brings him out of it, the phone starts ringing because it's the surveillance cops calling him, trying to find out what's going on in his house. And so, he goes and, he's like, Gacy comes out, the kid's there, but he's like, scared to death still. And he's like, I'm just going to take my guests home and everything. The guy, the kid, he gets him in the car. The kid's like, I could walk home. It was like, no, don't worry about it. I'll drive you home and all this stuff. So he gives him some, basically pays him in hush money and tells him not to talk to anybody about it. And so, we see that, it's a very intense movie, and you got, Kozenzak, he's really, really trying because he knows that Gacy's going to strike again. He knows that, he just, and he's promising the family of Chris Gant that he's going to get this guy, that he's going to get justice for Chris and everything. And it's so well done, and so many intense moments. Like this scene here, this is actually kind of very creepy intense. And Brian Denny, where he's playing, Gacy as the clown in the hospital, and he's taunting Kozenzak here by taking this handsome young teenage boy and doing the handcuff trick on him and everything. And but it really is, the movie really is kind of a race against time, and trying to get Gacy before he can hurt anybody else. And there's actually a pretty climactic chase at the end of the movie, which is surprising because Kozenzak finally, Michael Riley gives this fantastic scene because he keeps going to Meg Foster all the time, trying to get evidence. Like even at one point, Gacy invites the detectives into his house, and one of them sneaks into the bedroom and trying not to be caught by Gacy. He's trying to get the serial number off the back of a TV because they believe the TV belongs to one of the missing boys. And so that scene is really intense and really suspense filled. And just and his this race against time and everything. And he keeps going to Meg Foster. Meg Foster, no, 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 and all this other kind of stuff. And finally, Michael Riley gives this great scene, where he's just like, okay, you say we need more evidence. Well, let's just look at what we've got. Okay. He's like, we've got this photo receipt that this girl, Cindy Beck, swore that she put in Chris's jacket pocket the night he disappeared. I found this in Gacy's garbage. We found, this, we found that. We found, we found personal belongings. We found, jewelry that has been identified belonging to some of the missing victims. And this and all this and that and everything. And then the real kicker is like, now my surveillance team is reporting to me that his own lawyer is begging us not to let this guy get away. So please, you tell me, what more do we need? And then she finally says, yeah, okay, go ahead and do the request for a search warrant. So he's trying to get the request so they could get the search warrant done and stuff. And, meanwhile, he had talked to this guy, Teddy, who worked for Gacy, and saying that, they were digging holes in the crawl space, saying they were for drainage pipes and things like that. And that's what starts to give him the idea that maybe he's buried in the crawl space. So, and then Gacy, he's, flipping out, and he's, trying to get away. And Teddy, he comes out and he's all like, yeah, he's telling me one minute he's going insane. He's saying he's going to kill me. The next, he's going to kill himself and all this stuff. And then, so Gacy tries to make a run for it. He's trying to get to, Chicago airport. So the surveillance team is trying to get to him, and it's a high speed chase and everything else. And then, Kozenzak, meanwhile, he's getting the request for the search warrant, and they, word gets back to him, it's like, he's trying to head for the airport, and all this stuff, it's like, he's saying one minute he's either going to leave or he's going to kill himself and all this stuff. And so Kozenzak has a tough decision to make. Meg Foster's standing right there. And so he's all like, go ahead and bring him in. And, and she's like, no, you can't, not yet, and everything. And they're all like, why? What charge? And how the hell do I know, Mike? Use your own discretion, but do not let this guy get away, and stuff. And so Meg Foster is talking about, if they find nothing in the crawl space, he's going to have everything he needs to sue you for $1 million. So they get him pulled over, and, basically Gacy's kind of like stoned and out of his mind and stuff like that. And, so he's like, what are you pulling me over for? Was it something like possession of narcotics or something? So they take him in, and so while they're questioning him and stuff, and they're telling him that, the detective is in your house right now. So, oh, he's in my house. My lawyer's going to love to hear about that. And Gacy really is playing kind of like the smugness of John Wayne Gacy, because John Wayne Gacy he was smug, and he thought that he was better than his victims. He thought he was always going to get away with it no matter what. And, but, turned out he couldn't do it. So, so yeah, cousin Zach is in his house with one of his uh, forensic team, and he's digging down there and all this, and he's all like, yeah, detective, call the coroner. I have the remains of all these bodies and stuff. And then I forgot to mention though too. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. There's a brilliant scene in this movie with Margot Kidder. Now she's only in the movie for just a few minutes, but she really, really delivers a standout performance in this movie. And I mean, it's like people made jokes about Margot Kidder about her living, what was going on in her life or whatever. But you cannot deny this woman was. You can't stand there and tell me she wasn't a great actress, because she was, and because she's trying to contact Kozenzak saying that she's a psychic and, she could help him. She wants to give him some information about the case. And at first they're just blowing her off. They're like, oh, dude, psychic, no way, that's bull. So, but they finally go to see her and they take Chris Gant's camera because his camera was, he was a photographer, he really loved taking pictures and stuff. So, she's like, I need something to touch, and so she's touching it and she's like, yeah, okay. And she's, telling him about, here's a man who works with his hands and everything else. And so she's, like drawing that's kind of the thing though, that they did kind of change though, because I never saw any documentary where Kozenzak actually went to a psychic. I believe the scene was put in just for dramatic effect. But, she draws basically kind of the diagram about how to find the bodies in the crawl space. And that's how they discovered. But in real life, how they got it was Gacy said that, he was the one who drew, well, he didn't say, but he did. He drew the diagram showing where to find the bodies. But like I said, I think the scene was just put into the movie for kind of dramatic effect. But still, Margot Kidder, she makes it entertaining. She keeps it intense. It's like, people talk, oh, she acts crazy. She didn't act crazy here. She did really good. She's only in there. It's only a small scene, but boy, she steals that scene. She really, really makes that movie fantastic. She really helps. But yeah, so they find the bodies and things like that, and of course, then at the end of the movie, they find Chris Gant's body, and cousin Zaki's looking around the area where they find the body, and turns out that they thought the psychic meant that Chris was buried here or there or wherever, but turned out no. They found this area where it was nearby. It was a construction site near the Des Plaines River where his body was found. And so kind of like they realized that kind of like she wasn't entirely wrong, but they kind of got the information mixed up. But that's pretty much where the movie ends. But yeah, I think this movie it needs to be on Blu-ray or I mean DVD at the earliest, but well, I think it has been on DVD years back, but it's been out of print for however long. But yeah, I remember back in the day, I think it was released on VHS and like a cut print or something. But anyway, though, this is a miniseries. It really needs to be rescued, in my opinion. You could watch it for free. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. There might be other streaming services you can watch it, but it is on YouTube. You can watch it for free. But this is one of those TV movies. I feel like it's criminally underrated. It really needs to be looked at again and appreciated. My God, everybody in this movie, Brian Dennehy does a great job as John Wayne Gacy. But as I've said before, to me, it's kind of like, it's kind of weird to say he was kind of too good for that part. Now, I mean, they did the movie Gacy with Mark Holton, who played Francis in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Now, Mark Holton kind of, for me personally, kind of looks more like what I would picture John Wayne Gacy to be like. He's more kind of, I'm not trying to pick on the man, but he's more built like John Wayne Gacy, where Brian Dennehy is built like a freaking bull, man. He's like big, not really fat so much. He's more like barrel chested, and he's tall. Whereas like, I was like Brian Dennehy, he's kind of a big, tall guy, Whereas like Mark Holton, I think is pretty much like average height and stuff. And Gacy was not a tall guy, but so I mean, yeah. But at the same time, too, though, it's like the fact how huge he is, how tall he is, and his size, and just the way he did. Dennehy scares the hell out of you in this movie. He does a great job with it. Plays it very well. Does a fantastic job. Just like I said, just for me personally, I kind of feel like he was a little too good for that part, but that's not denying he does a great, fantastic job. Michael Riley is an actor. Unfortunately, I don't think he ever got much of the credit he deserved because I mean, he plays Kozenzak to a T in this movie. I mean, I mean, I'm not saying he mirrored Joseph Kozenzak exactly in real life, but I mean, he plays it pitch perfect. You identify with him. His, I have nothing bad to say. I mean, he gives a great performance, and he's very compelling. You're very invested in him as the lead character. He's pushing his guys now, even though a lot of them don't like him. You know, ultimately he does get the results and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he just does a fantastic job. Meg Foster, it's like this was in the early '90s where Meg Foster kind of seemed like she was getting a lot of bitch roles. I mean, I was sure Meg Foster is a wonderful person in real life, but yeah, I mean, it was like around this time she was doing movies like this, or she was like in They Live. It's like you think she's, like in They Live, you think she's kind of like just a normal person, but turns out she's actually a villain in that movie too. She was a villain in Leviathan. So I mean, yeah, I mean, she was kind of playing a lot of mean, nasty women roles at that time, but that was, I just thought that was funny. But like I said, Margot Kidder, she's only in the movie for a short time, but she makes it memorable. I got to give her that. But yeah, I mean, if you're a true crime fanatic and you're interested in John Wayne Gacy, now, granted, it's not 100% factual, but if you like true crime movies and true crime miniseries, oh my god, yeah, To Catch a Killer it's a gem. It's a true gem. And like I said, I really honestly I wish and I hope that at some point, I don't care who, but somebody rescue this TV movie from obscurity. Get it out there, get it on Blu-ray, get it so we can have a great copy of it. I really want that because this is, it's great. Like I said, it's not 100% factual, but still, I mean, it's easily got to be the best movie about John Wayne Gacy out there. The movie Gacy with Mark Holton is actually a good movie, but this here, this is pretty much the best one in my opinion. But so anyway, so yeah, that's about it. Yeah, so To Catch a Killer. I'm glad we talked about this one, and I really do enjoy it. I think it's a wonderful movie. So anyway, as I've said about 20 times already, but anyway, if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. There'll be weekly videos posted, reviews, movie hauls, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, until next time, this is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover, wishing you a good night and take care. Bye bye.